All right, time for us to make a whole lot of noise and yell and scream, more than we normally do. It's time for Pound the Table, where we each talk about some guys that we are feeling very adamant about here in Week 3. So let's start at quarterback. Who are you willing to pound the table for this?
You know, you give me a license to yell, I lose all interest.
I know.
I'm just kidding. That's not. I'm going to pound the table for. I'm going to pound the table for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is having a massive. Anyways, Brock Purdy's been playing very well this season. As a matter of fact, the totals on the board are correct. He leads the NFL with 550 passing yards this season, and now he's going up against the Rams, who've allowed the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. They've allowed 4 touchdown passes this season, and you're going to say to yourself, "Hey, Adam, dude, what if they're blowing out the Rams?" Good idea. How will they blow out the Rams? Look at what happened last week with Kyler Murray. You're like, oh, what if the Cardinals get up on 40? Yeah, they got up on 40 because Kyler Murray was out there throwing a bunch of touchdowns. Brock Purdy will do something similar.
All right, so he's got Brock Purdy, who I think is a really excellent choice this week. For me, I'm going to pound the... It doesn't squeak or squeal, and it makes me think of Duck Hunt when that silly dog was laughing at me. I'm still going to pound the table. I hope I don't knock the stuffing out of this duck for Joe Burrow this week.
Oh.
Joe Burrow. Look, Week 1 was not great for Joe Burrow. Look, Jamar Chase had just come back. He didn't have T. Higgins. Week 2, a little bit better. Week 3 is going to be even better than that, because I know we've said that it's sort of implied that you're taking the player that's playing against the Washington Commanders, but I think this is sort of to reassure folks who drafted Joe Burrow that it's going to get better. Jamar Chase, a couple weeks into shape. T. Higgins could be back this week. Washington has been awful. It's funny, they're blitzing a lot. They're not getting home. They have one of the highest blitz rates in the league, but they're bottom 10 in actual pressure rate. So they're sending all this pressure. It's getting picked up. And that's good news for Joe Burrow, especially if he gets some of his help back this week.
Great news for Joe Burrow. Let's move on to the running back position. And one guy that I would like to talk about.
Please.
As we got the Derrick Henry. Because he's out there rushing for a touchdown every week, but he is not putting up the fantasy points that you would expect for somebody who's been running for a touchdown in each and every game. But he's got a great matchup this week against the Dallas Cowboys, who've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs this season. If you think back to the Cowboys in the playoffs against Aaron Jones, who ran for like 500 yards against them, and then last week it was Alvin Kamara going out there and going, just total nuclear. I think Derrick Henry has a real opportunity to get down and run downhill against this team, almost to the point of you could almost even play Justice Hill a little bit, but they need a big breakout game from Derrick Henry. You're 0-2. You traded for this guy. You acquired this guy, whatever. You need to go out there and make a statement against the Dallas Cowboys, and to do so, you got to run Hunter Henry. Or Derrick Henry.
Maybe Hunter Henry, too.
Him, too. If he was on your team, I'd run him.
Especially because they really de-emphasized Lamar Jackson running last week. So you might as well give it to El Tractorcito. You mentioned Brock Purdy as a guy you're pounding the table for. I'm going to go with his backfield mate, Jordan Mason. We are pounding the table for Mason. Yes. Look. You talk about what happens if the 49ers get up by a whole bunch of points. Well, then they just hand it to Jordan Mason. Although likely, if they're up big, it's probably because Jordan Mason helped do some things as well. 20 or more carries, 100-plus yards, a touchdown in each of his 2 career starts, which have been the last 2 starts. Anyway, he's going against the Rams defense that has been awful. It is apparent that they miss Aaron Donald in the middle of that defensive line. It's apparent that they miss Ernest Jones at the linebacker spot. They traded him away to Tennessee. Jordan Mason getting all of the snaps. I think the other 49er running backs combined have a total of 4 snaps. It is the Jordan Mason show in the backfield, so I think he's going to get plenty of work against a Ram defense that really is looking for some answers right now.
The greatest Mason in San Francisco since John Patrick Mason.
Yes.
100%. Who saved the day from General Hummel. In any event, I want to sit here, and I got a bone to pick with all you body language experts out there sitting there trying to tell DJ Moore how to feel. Well, let me tell you, don't worry about how he's feeling. You just start Homer pick. Listen, I'm a fan of the sport of football. And I think that DJ Moore bounces back this week. Now, there has been no team that has given up more rushing yards in the first 2 games of a season than the Colts since the Baltimore Colts in 1978. I anticipate the Bears' game plan to be run heavy. Put Mercedes Lewis out there. Hopefully, Kari Blasingame can come back and play. But that will just set up the play-action pass for DJ Moore, and I expect him to have a monster week. Go ahead, ring it. Ring the homer. Everybody's shocked.
I mean, look,
shocked.
they've got. Look, I think Caleb Williams has done some good things. They got to figure out some ways just to give him a little bit of help, and maybe getting the ball to DJ Moore is going to help. I like another wide receiver for an elite quarterback, and it's Khalil Shakir. I'm pounding the table. I'm pounding a little metal football guy who has a crack on his ankle. Khalil Shakir has been really good. He seems to fit the moment now in an NFL where we see a lot more short passing. He's averaging just over 6.5 air yards per target. And I was watching some of these routes that he was running, and so many times you see like Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox kind of clearing out space, Dalton Kincaid drawing so much attention, and you see Khalil Shakir kind of settling in underneath that zone, and Josh Allen is finding him. I think that's going to continue this week.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I think it'll be okay. You know, by the way, I just got a text from Mark DiPaolo, who is very concerned about this. He's fine. Mark, he'll be fine. It's okay. I'll bring him to the draft next year. Here's my thing, though. I want to say something about Brock Bowers, because earlier this year in my mock draft with a twist, I said the Raiders should go out there and draft Brock Bowers. And you listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to say it, but you guys were sitting there making fun of me, saying they don't need a tight end. And Brock Bowers has been the only tight end who has been consistent in the NFL this season. And you see the targets, you see the receptions. He is almost reminiscent of guys like Travis Kelce in his heyday, Mark Andrews during his one good season. No, I'm just kidding. But still, Brock Bowers has been one of the most consistent guys, and all of you laughed at me. So I'm pounding the table for Brock Bowers. He needs to be in your lineup every week.
Yeah, at this point, he's pretty much a must start. I'm glad I got on board late in the fantasy draft season. All right, we got one more tight end. It's Kyle Pitts. We are the Kyle Pitts Show of Record.
Yes.
We will continue to pound the table for Kyle Pitts. Look, I get it. There are some concerns, no doubt. He's got fewer targets than Ray McCloud and Darnell Mooney. He has just one target over 10 yards. But he does lead the team in end zone targets. And he's got a good matchup this week. Kansas City gave up big yards and big plays to Isaiah Likely. They gave up big yardage to Mike Gesicki last week. I think there's an opportunity for Kyle Pitts to get really going as we look. Kirk Cousins says he's got to be better. I think part of that means getting the ball to Kyle Pitts. All right, this whole segment was foul. Yeah.